Good morning, traders. Joseph here from Eightcap. Welcome to this week's Trade Zone Asian Session Open / Outlook. So we're starting with the dollar. It finished the week very strong last week, and we can see it was after the non-farm payroll data came in higher than expected. So unemployment dropped. Payrolls came in way above what was expected at 187, and they also beat the last data of 333. We got 353k, and there was a big shock to the market, and we also saw average hourly earnings increase above what was expected in the last data at 0.6%. So we can see here the response and the reaction from the market. We can see a very strong move up from the dollar. So the dollar broke above key resistance here, and just has this final, it is a breakout at this stage with a trend continuation. So the next key is, do we get back up to test 104.11? And if we can break that level, then do we see a break of 104.33? And then do we do a silly completion with a new move up, starting to get back up to the top end of 104? As expected, we saw some pretty heavy selling. The Aussie was targeted pretty heavily. We can see that really strong move down. It looks like there's a continuation play in progress there on the Aussie. The euro as well, small losses at this stage this morning, but it's very early, but we can see that continuation play there. If the dollar does continue, we'd look to see if the euro can get back down and test 0.750, and the pound as well. So the pound still remains range bound, though we can see a fair bit of support here, and we'll look to see if the pound can break that support or if it will remain range bound. And there's plenty of resistance up higher at 1.2775. If we did see a support hold here, it could even have a range play trade and see if it can get back into mid-range if the dollar doesn't find momentum earlier into this week, but that would be the target there, that top of the range at resistance. So we'll see if it can hold this support area here, but if it does break through these lows, there could be this trend here could be then starting to turn, and that could be seen as a distribution pattern just there. So other than that, the dollar CAD very strong as well after oil came off and the dollar was firmer. We can see that strong reversal bar there. Still doesn't look, it is a slight bit of a continuation, but we need to see our break at that high to really prove it, that, and then move back up to test that 1.3523 area. Some of the other markets, stocks did perform well, but they finished off high. So we can see US30 here hit new records. Similar story for the ASX. We saw new records hit, but second time in a row it faded off those records. So we can see that bar here last week, and then Friday's bar. So could this be a bit of a warning that the market is having a little bit of trouble at these type of higher prices, and could we see a bit of a slowdown in the pullback? We'll have to see what happens into today and tomorrow, and especially for the US30. If it does have a bit of a breather after this run up, that will affect the ASX, and the ASX does look a touch bit struggling at the moment at those prices, above 7660. So we'll have to see what happens today as well. If we do have a bit of bit of profit taking creep in maybe further into today's session, depending on some of the leads and how things open up. The market in Australia will open in around 22 minutes time. It does open alphabetically, so it will be a little bit, it starts from a stock staying with A to Z, but the futures will open in around 12 minutes time, so at 10 to 10. And the Nikkei as well was firmer, a similar story as well. It looks to have a bit of trouble at this point here, above 36,314. It does have a bit of a lower high pattern about it, and if we did see a new move down, that would be a break of the fast trend. It's a pretty good pattern to show some weakness, so it doesn't look that convincing right now. Some of the other US indices, so the S&P 500 was a lot firmer than the US30. You can see it finished basically on its highs and had a breakout as well. So it's conflicting to what we're seeing on the US30, and the NDX 100 still seeing this resistance here at 17,614. Let's get rid of those. So that's really the area to watch here, is if buyers can beat that level at 17,614. So as you expect, with the dollar performing so well, we saw gold pull back on Friday, and we can see the resistance stands here at 2056. There's a little bit of short-term support here at 2030, but at the moment it remains pretty range-bound at this stage, and with no direction. So need to see some direction in gold, and at the moment it looks pretty happy just to be churning around in between those 2 points. And silver after pushing higher last week and threatening with a bit of a breakout, we can see that resistance remains firm at 23.21, and we can see a nice test lower by sellers, but there is a bit of demand from 22.53. So other markets as well this morning, crypto is a little bit lower. We are seeing a bit of selling coming in. Ripple continues to be a bit of a worry, so we can see more selling today, and it remains pretty firm at under 59. Buyers really want to defend this 49.45 area, and then down again, around this 45.85 area. So there's a few levels of support they want to try and hold out at. 47 is another. This downtrend continues to push on. We can see Bitcoin as well. It really has struggled above 43.605 this round. We can see testing that short-term support, which is around 42.258 area. Ethereum is lower as well this morning, close to 1% down, and we can see that a bit of a lower high here. Short-term resistance at 2305 and short-term support at 2269 and 2250. Overall, you can see that lower high, so it does look like it's trying to force a new push lower. The recovery trend still looks like it's in play, but we'll just have to give it a bit more time to work itself out. This is where the key support is 21.94. If we see a new move down there, we really want to see that support hold with a new move higher off it. If not, that could be a bit of a worry about this trend here on the short to medium term. But that's a bit of far away, so we'll just have to continue to see what happens if we do see a bit more short-term selling, and what happens at some of that short-term support, and if we do actually get down to that level. Some majority of the major top coins this morning are lower. Can see most around that close to 1% lower, or just over 1% lower. BNB is probably doing the best out of the top 5 to 10 at this stage. It's minus 0.62. We can see DOT and Ava are down 1.22 to 1.27% at this stage. So, and Phil's down 1.69%. So there's a little bit of these momentum issues and demand issues still continuing for crypto at this stage. If we do see more dollar buying and risk market selling, it could have a bit of a negative effect on cryptos into the early stages of this week. And so we'll just continue to keep an eye on them. Oil made a third firm session lower, so we can see after the sellers really got going last week, it didn't stop on Friday, had another 2% move down. Really the key support we can see is around that 70.30 area. We can see a little bit of demand down at this point at 72.16. At the moment, it does look like sellers are trying to push in a new downtrend, and I think the key will be what happens on the next rally. If it's a lower high, and if we go back down and test the low, or if we do see a higher low and we can try and get back up. This is pretty key resistance once again, at 78.67. Just after failing to really test that level, we can just see it's been one-way traffic for now with selling moving lower. So that will be key there for oil, just to see if we can get back on track and find some of that demand that was seen previously. The real keys this week is going to be the dollar. What do we see? A further push higher and a break of that resistance from the dollar, and then will we see continuations lower on risk currencies to the dollar? You can see this stage in the morning that we are lower to it, but early in the early at this stage in the Sydney and getting close to the Asian session open, the moves aren't very big at this stage in the morning. Now to the yen, we are seeing a little bit of buying against the yen. Euro's lower, but the pound and the Aussie are higher. The dollar's also higher, and we can see on obviously on Friday after that strong move higher, we can see a test here at this resistance. So for the dollar yen, it really does need to break this area just to get this push this trend on. And for some of the other risk majors to the yen, we can see a little bit of firmer action there, so let's update that. But again, we do need to see a bit of a push back up to test and break this resistance to really show that this trend is going to continue. The Aussie, which hasn't been too great, has just sort of pulled a recovery bar on Friday, but it's still below this trend, and there's a bit of a breakout there. So the Aussie is definitely the weakest out of the three at this stage, and the euro sort of just in the middle. So the pound's looking probably the best with the dollar at this point. So some of the markets to keep an eye on. We'll have a economic outlook video coming out a little bit later today. Plus, we're going to do a market update, and we're probably going to look at nickel at this stage. So nickel still continues to trade in a pretty nice pattern here, ending diagonal shape, and we will break that down a little bit later and just have a bit of a discussion about it and what we want to see in terms of if we do get a breakout or if it does break lower and does continue the trend. So that one will probably be our subject market later on today, and but next we'll have the economic outlook, and that just to finalize today's week ahead and more day ahead video series. So thank you very much for your time. I wish you all the best for your trading, and we will talk to you a little bit later today with our next update. So thanks and bye for now.